You might need to accept the recording.
Yeah,
No? Hmm.
it just said okay. Yep.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the Mom Halo Show. I am so excited for today's guest. This woman, I can say, has single-handedly changed my life in a way that I could not say that about almost any other podcast guest. So without further ado, I welcome to the studio, Odette Peek.
Thank you. Thank you. Great to be on your show again.
Oh my God. Okay, Odette, you are so beautiful and so incredible. And I just cannot wait to tell the entire world about you. I promised you once we're going to make 1 million. We're going to do it. Odette, tell us who you are, where you're from, and what you do. Go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. So Odette from Canada, but I currently live in Costa Rica for the last 3 years. And the story is vast and wide, so I'll just give you the Coast Notes version. I work with plant medicine. I'm a psychedelic integration coach and working with plant medicine to help people heal trauma, childhood wounds, any challenges that they may have. And I know firsthand the beauty of plant medicine. And my first real journey was when I was 52 years old. I came to Costa Rica because my life was just upside down. I didn't feel good in my own skin. I had a great business, but it didn't feel good. It was like I'm doing the things I should be doing, I have to be doing, but not what I wanted to be doing. And sometimes we just don't know that until you're in the thick of it. And had a banner year in 2018, and then I just decided that it just wasn't going to happen for me anymore. But I didn't know how to get out of that treadmill or hamster wheel of, yeah, but Odette, you got to keep doing what you're doing because it's working and it's successful and you're this and you're that. But I'm like, yeah, but I'm miserable. And they're like, it doesn't matter. And a client just said, hey, I'm going to Costa Rica for ayahuasca. Do you want to come? And I had no idea what ayahuasca was. So kudos to most people who have an idea of what plant medicine is, because I had zero. And it was probably a good thing, because if you've ever heard of ayahuasca, it can be pretty challenging. And so I went to Costa Rica. I had 1 week in my calendar. I did ayahuasca for the week, and it was a completely transformational experience for my entire life. It was the first time in probably decades that I felt good in my own skin. I had a purpose. I knew what my purpose was. I knew what my truth was, my essence was. And then, the tricky part is, how do you then take all of that and bring it back to your day-to-day life and incorporate what we all want to know is how do I make these changes? How do I do that? And I just started plugging away, doing a lot more plant medicine. And fast forward, I'm now, 4 years later, 57 now, doing this work. Moved to Costa Rica 3 years ago, and everything is completely different for me. So happy to share the how and throughout this podcast. But yeah, that's me in a nutshell. Just want to preface as well my background. I went to university in the 80s and I did clinical and social psychology. I did social work. I built businesses. I did a lot of different things. Took a lot of courses in therapy and mind-body connection and all of that. And at the time, I didn't really realize it was going to go anywhere. And it was just like all of a sudden, everything just came to fruition. It was like all of my skills and training just kind of was like, okay, here, this is what it's for. So
I love that so much. I mean, when I first came into you and I first started Googling you, I saw all your TED Talks and all these businesses you've done before. And it's so interesting to me because I've been reading a lot about this syndrome called the rushing woman syndrome. And I would say it's about women who feel like they have to use every hour of their day to be productive. They don't know how to slow down. There's no essence of protecting their own time or energy. They're constantly rushing, either because they have, that's the society has set up the pressure to the women to also be the homemaker, the businesswoman, the CEO, the count. And then we have this incredible fatigue and illness that sort of takes over our body, and we're so tired, and we come into our perimenopause or menopausal ages and like we're broken entirely. And we need to fix ourselves. So when I came to you, just as a personal anecdote, is like I was broken, like in every possible sense. I had tried so many alternative therapies, and you came to me in like a whisper on a cloud from somebody who I really trusted, who I'd seen like in front of me, like evolve into a butterfly of a person. They were already in my mind super successful, top of the game, number one, like had it all together. And I just saw like their face changed and their life changed, and they started making business decisions that were so different than they had before. I remember saying like, "What happened to you? Like, what's up?" And she's
Yeah.
like, "I met this woman." Like that's how it's. I did this ceremony, and I was my interest was so piqued because I was like at such a intersection of needing also like complete levels of healing, and that's when I met Odette, and nothing has been the same since. So Odette, tell me, what is plant medicine? Can you take us back just to page one? What is plant medicine?
Absolutely. So plant medicine or psychedelics are, and they've been around for, thousands of years, say, hundreds of years. And it's interesting because a lot of people say in today's world, yeah, but I need proof. I need proof that, psilocybin works or that this works. And we're just like, yeah, but you've got centuries of proof. And so it's very much, can come from the indigenous cultures. And the plant medicine, what it does is it's every plant medicine a little bit different. Ayahuasca is different than psilocybin, is different than Bufo and Cambo and all of these other ones some people probably haven't heard of. And they just they go in behind the psyche, they work with the inner healer, they work with our trauma, they work with what needs to be healed in this moment. That's what is ready to be healed. And so it's not like taking a pill and then you're fixed either. You need to be ready for this. You need to be, your inner healer's probably been saying for years, hey, over here, where disease is starting to set in, or your anxiety or your depression or your overwhelm is just really getting a little bit too much for your body. Let's try and put the brakes on it. And we don't listen to our bodies often, because you talk about the rushing woman syndrome, which was so me. And I could still dip into that once in a while. But that's how our society is geared. It's about, what are you doing that will define who you are, not who you are just naturally through your beingness. And so when we are ready to do the deeper work, the inner work, and use plant medicine, plant medicine then gives us what we want. Sorry, it gives us what we need, not always what we want. And it is very much intention based. Is what is it that is missing for you? What needs to have healed? And it doesn't always have to be, as you mentioned once, capital T trauma. It doesn't have to be physical abuse, sexual abuse, or any of those things. Yes, definitely it is there for those healings, but it can be the little T trauma where we had strict parents, or we had parents, like my parents were from Holland, so they're immigrant parents, and there was a lot of fear because they grew up in the war in Holland, and my father's farm was occupied by the Nazis, and he was a 16-year-old kid, and so there's trauma there, and that trauma is ancestral and it's lineage, and so they came to Canada with expectations about building a better life for themselves and of course for us. And so the little T traumas come from their fears or their doubts or their worries. And then we embody those. And then so they stay trapped in our body. And they're in our society, especially the Western world, we're really cut off between the head and the heart and the soul. I call this the highway, and almost everybody's, or the throat chakra is closed, because we try to live our life heady thinking. And there's a holistic nature to us. So when we do plant medicine, it really doesn't matter which kind you do. It goes in and says, okay, we're going to kind of shut off the thinking brain a little bit. We're going to work with the heart. We're going to work with the soul. We get the whole body and like in the board of directors as a team to help heal what needs to be healed.
That's such a good analogy. Oh my God, I love that.
Well, the interesting thing is, I am very much, or was more so, but I'm sure there's definitely traits that controlling. I had to be in control of my external circumstances so that I felt safe on the inside, that I felt safe and happy and healthy. And what I was really doing was making my inner world just a disaster. And so, as you know, we can't control everything, and we try to. And so then what happens is our bodies start to take a toll. Our bodies give us clues, but we don't often listen because we push until one day we have debilitating diseases. Like I have an autoimmune disorder that I was diagnosed at the age of 32. And most people with this particular autoimmune don't get diagnosed until their 50s or 60s. So I get the whole emotional trauma piece. And so it's helping you heal the trauma that sometimes we don't even know is there. And that is what is the beautiful thing about plant medicine. It gives us, like I said, what we need, not always what we want.
Yeah. And I remember, through my coaching with you, we did so much coaching. Like
Yeah.
Odette and I did hours of coaching for a variety of reasons. I had so much capital T trauma. And
Mhm.
it was one of those things where I thought I had done a lot of studying about what this was going to be. And it's one of those things, it's a rite of passage that you cannot describe until you've been through it. That's the only way I can say it. It's
Yeah.
one of those things like people are like, oh, motherhood, for instance, like this is
Yeah.
mother. And then you're like, okay, like you're studying to be a mom, you're reading all the books, you're buying the stroller, you're doing the Lamaze class or whatever. And then you get hit by this Mack truck. That's motherhood. And you can't experience it until you've had that experience. With you, in a completely opposite way, I couldn't understand some of the coaching and some of the cues I was given until I had been through this experience. And I am the most straight, even keeled, like haven't smoked a cigarette in 15 years, like have a glass of wine very infrequently, like don't really smoke drugs, have never done any psychedelics in my life, presented with this experience with you that I can only describe as exactly what you said. The board of directors came together, the heart, mind, soul came together for the first fucking time in my entire life. And it's funny because my integration I had from healing my post-traumatic stress disorder through you, I was just describing it to somebody else who is a psychotherapist like moments ago. That for the first time, my healing is coming from my heart physically. Like I physically feel between my breasts, in my chest cavity, still 6 months later, healed from experience with you, where I'm like, if something is hard or something's pressing, I feel like the integration I've taken is I literally reach into this part of my chest and I can pull out the things that I got from my ceremony in such a way that it's a guiding northern star in a way that I've never experienced in my life. And I'm not woo woo. I never did yoga. I don't do breath work, nothing. And now I do all of it because for the first time, I'm leaning into this moment that I had with you that changed everything in the most beautiful fucking way. So I just want people to understand a little bit more that like,
Yeah.
a lot of women like and follow me. They see themselves in my life. I keep it really real. And I hear myself describing this and about my experience with you. And I'm like, I don't even recognize myself when I talk about this. But people have looked at me in the last 6 months. They're like, you look different. You're
Mhm.
acting different. I can see it in my face, Odette. I am a different person. And I
Yeah.
can quintessentially hang my hat on one experience, and that was my experience with you. Tell me about the experience and you've done hundreds of these. What is that experience? What can you name it? Like why is it so game changing for folks?
Yeah. So I incorporate the experience to not just be about the ceremony. There's a lot of people that do just the ceremony and they don't do the rest of it. And I don't agree with that. So when I started doing my own plant medicine journeys myself, like when I traipsed around Costa Rica, here I'm like this hippie 50-year-old something or another going and trying all sorts of medicines. And I realized there's very little preparation, very little integration. So the first step is preparation, is getting really clear on what is your intention? Why do you want to do this work in the first place? What are you resisting? What are you holding back? What are you afraid of? And if it's not love, then it's a fear. And we hide behind those fears and we've suppressed and repressed emotions for decades. And now all of a sudden, they start to bubble up like acid reflux. And you're like, I can't ignore them anymore, but I don't know what to do with them. So the first step is that preparation piece. And the first step that I like to do is I do an extensive family history intake so that we get to know who you are in every realm. So it's a fairly lengthy process, as you know. And I mean, I hate filling out forms, but this was one of the most therapeutic experiences because you go through your life year by year. you take a look at the big boulder moments, the little boulder moments, the sand moments, the pebble moments, and you're like, all of these things have shaped me to who I am today. It's not just the big stuff. And most people can't remember a lot of those little moments. So when you go through this process, in and of itself, if we were to stop there, it would be far better than any talk therapy. It is very eye-opening, very therapeutic. Often people will say, I didn't realize I had these issues or thoughts, and I just feel a lot better. So it sets you up for the success of the actual ceremony. So and just another thing, some people are nervous or they're afraid and they're like, yeah, I'll think about it. But the moment you say yes to your own healing, everything will start to shift for you. It's just a natural order of the universe, because you're in your yes. It means that you are now willing and desiring to make a change. So that's an important piece to note. Then we figure out, what is your intention? It's not what is your expectation for the experience, because not once has someone ever said that is exactly what I expected it to be. It's like, wow, I didn't expect that. And so come in with an intention, a desire. And sometimes the intention is just, I'm just going to let the medicine do whatever it needs to do. And I'm just going to back the hell away. And I'm just going to observe. And that is the best place to be in. And you were so beautiful in that. You're just like right in there and just allowing whatever needed to happen, if that's okay to share.
Of course. Can I pause for 1 second, Odette? I just want to say the intake, when I had to do the intake, was like writing out this journaling of these thoughts and things I haven't thought about in forever. And I say it now, people who are about to go to Costa Rica with us, and people who might live in my house who are going to be doing this with you soon. And the fact that they also are going through this journaling experience of, I want to say, oh, things they've kept closed for so long. And I know my husband was taking, my husband, I just outed him. He's going to be doing a journey with you this year. And it took him months and months and months to be like, he just woke up one day. He's like, I want to do an Odette journey. I was like, okay. I didn't ask him. I didn't push it, but he said, like, I've seen so much change in you and I just want to be where you're at. Right. And then and when the opportunity presented for us to do this Costa Rica trip, I couldn't help but want to like fill it with everyone I love and people that I don't even know, because I just want them to also experience the level of joy, literal joy and literal happiness that I've felt then and now continuing on into my life. So we're talking about the pre-work. The pre-work for me started with that journaling and that saying yes. So I'm just sort of echoing your sentiment.
Yeah. And let's face it, you are a pretty busy woman, right? Like you're probably one of the most busiest women I have ever met. And I did think, oh my God, how's she going to have the time or the energy to do it? And you did it. And that's what I love, is that when you said yes and you showed up and you did the pre-work, a lot of people struggle with that because they are time is something that they think they need more of, but it's really about priority. And you have to make yourself and your healing the number one priority, because your family, your kids, your business, job, whatever is going to be benefit from that. So then the next step is, what does the ceremony look like? And what does the day look like? And it's it's a day long. It's you and I just, we've gotten to know each other. That's another thing. We're also building a relationship ahead of time. And what is it that, that you're looking for? What is the healing that's required? And the process is a day, and it is just super, super beautiful. It's hard to explain, because every time I do a ceremony for myself, like Always Guided, I walk away with something completely different. I have never has two ceremonies been exactly the same, and I've done hundreds. And sometimes I'm like, oh my God, last time it was such a hard journey, it was challenging. This is going to be challenging. And then it's like pure, beautiful and blissful, or the other way around, right? And I do want to preface that challenging is a beautiful thing, because it means that the trauma that you have is coming up and leaving. So that's another important piece, is that what the medicine does with you is that when those emotions start coming up, it is, all it's saying is, okay, it's ready to come up. It's just going to go. It's just going to go. And you allow it to go. And then you don't have that trauma anymore. There might be other layers. And then at the end of the day, we start the integration process and start to discuss what is the messaging that you got. What's the insight? How do you feel? And I always go into the body. It's never really about what are you thinking about that, because nobody cares about how you're thinking. They want to know how you're feeling.
Yeah.
And so that's the most important piece, is now you've integrated the head, the heart, the soul, the body, the future of what you want your life to look at like. And the integration is where most of the work happens, because now it's about applying what you've learned, because you've changed. Things have changed within you, but the outside world is still the same, right? Your husband's still the same, your wife or your kids. And it's about being able to navigate you with the new lens in the same world. And it is possible.
What's what's incredible for me is that hit home for so many levels. And I have to be honest, Odette, like I had a really hard time. It actually took me a long time. I think it took me 6 months to sort of come out that I had done this with you, right? And it wasn't until the opportunity presented itself to go to Costa Rica with you, that I wanted to sort of scream from the rooftops, like this is what, and I wanted it to see the lasting effects. You're talking about integration. I'll give
Mhm.
myself as an example. I came in with the intention of saying, and it's really wide and it's kind of vague, but it was like, who am I? Who is Alana? Who am I, the person different than the CEO, the wife, the mother? Like, who am I? And I just remember leaving feeling so many feels, but I was like, who am I? Who am I? And I remember you tapping, saying, go inwards. And you said, go inwards and say, who am I? I'm like, who am I? Who am Alana? Who's Alana? Who am I? And I'm like, I was laughing, hysterically laughing for like 90 minutes. Like, I don't think I stopped laughing for 45, whatever it was. I'm like, who am I? I'm like, I'm laughter. That's what I said out loud. I said, I am laughter. And I said, oh my God. And I am light. I feel light, like escaping from my chest cavity. And I'm like, and I'm love. That's what so like, it was such a crazy thing. And in my head, what I integrated and have taken away from the ceremony 6 months ago is I am laughter, I am love, I am light. And I literally say that to myself all the time. And
Yeah.
when I boil it down, like I am a CIO, I'm incredible. That's what I remember thinking, I am incredible. What I do in a fucking day, what I manage in my life in one day, people would not understand what I actually go through. I know lots of people go through a lot, but I'm fucking incredible. And I have
Yeah.
never said that about myself ever. I'm 40 years old. I had never said that about myself ever until after the ceremony. So when you talk about integration and your body mind connection, it's sitting right here in my chest cavity. And that is literally what I feel. And it makes sound like a bumper sticker, but I am fucking love, light, and laughter. That is who I am. And I think if you met anybody, they would tell you that is who I am.
And and that's the beautiful thing, is that um, with what you have going on in your life, when I'm working with people, it was just like, well, I really hope it sticks in the integration. I really hope that, life doesn't come crushing back down on you. And it does, right? But you hung on to that, and you still have. And so days afterwards, I could see it building. So it wasn't just what can happen with some people when they don't continue the integration work is that you'll never undo or unsee your experience with the medicine, but it can dissipate, right? Because you're not doing the work, you're not stepping into what you learned was who you are. They drift away from that. And what is spectacular is that you kept building on it. And so, for whatever reason, however, but that part of you is like, no, I'm not losing this essence, but I'm also going to grow it. I'm going to build it. And so your life, your energy, your heart, everything has expanded, and that's just from one ceremony, right?
One
And
ceremony. And I've been dying to tell everybody I know about this. So this is my opportunity and to put you in the limelight. It's my pleasure.
yeah, well, I'm honored, and I'm honored that you want to do that and you want to share it with people, because not everybody does, because they're worried about any implications and things like that. But you've made a fundamental shift, and for your husband to notice, because obviously, sometimes the person closest to you doesn't notice it, um, and they're ready to step into it. So the beautiful thing about this work is that it doesn't stop at you. It's actually not about you. It is about your lineage. It's about your family. It's about the people in the world around you. Like talk therapy is just staying inside of your head, and it just is a focus of you. And then also often about how to change the outside world through blame and being a victim. Whereas this is really about opening up that energetic space of allowing and allowing the expansion. And I'm sure that, well, obviously your husband's going to be doing something, but your kids, everybody benefits from it. And that's the beautiful thing.
I'm more present as a mother. I'm more present as a daughter, as a sister, as a spouse in my work. Like everything has become so crystallized for me. And I wrote recently, and maybe we'll get into this a little bit, but like I'm so content, right? And they
Yeah.
say happiness is often defined by being content with what you have in front of you, right? And it's a contentment that I can't, that was undescribable to me. So I think I want to get a little bit into the details of that because there's a few physicalities that happen in ceremony
Oh,
with
yeah.
you that like I can reach back into. And I'll give you an example. Odette has music that she does during her ceremony. And it was music that she was like, I want you to listen to this music ahead of time. And it was
Yeah.
like totally unearthed music. Like I would never in a million years listen to these soundtracks. But the music that I had on my earphones and I'm wearing this eye cover. And if you Google, Medical Association of Psychedelic Studies, MAPS, MAPS, there's like a article that comes up and it's a cartoon image of somebody lying on a sofa with a headphone on, with the eye covers on, eye shades, and you
Yeah.
see the cartoon. It's like this beautiful, like, I don't know, Seth Rogen style
Yeah.
movie, colors and rainbows and music coming out of their mind. And I was like, oh my God, this is exactly what happened to me. That's exactly how I felt. And I
Yeah.
remember the music. Now there's some songs you played. If I need to reach back into that place, I actually can listen to the music and it takes me there. Another
Yeah.
example is you gave me some smelling scents. I think it was cacao
Yeah.
oil on one hand and this lemon. And
Mhm.
I was smelling it, the smallest little dot of these smells, and I was smelling it during my ceremony, and I'm not kidding. It was the most heightened experience of music, and my
Mhm.
senses, the centralness of my every sense I had was on fire in this ceremony. So can you explain your actual ceremony? I mean, your business is sort of psilocybin ceremonies. Can you just explain a little bit more about the
Yeah.
logistics operations? Go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. So once we figure out what the medicine is, we figure out what the dosing is, we figure out what the intention is. You show up in the morning or however, wherever it happens. It The music is given to you ahead of time for a reason, for you to try it out. Um, and most people go, that's weird music. I don't know. And I'm like, just trust me, trust me. I had this one guy want to do AC/DC and Jethro Tull and everything. I'm like, dude, sorry, but like, and he was like 65. I'm like, I get that that's your music, but we got to stick with this music. And the music is like a guide. It's like another guide in the room. And what it does is it curates it's curated specifically for psilocybin or for medicine work. And it interacts with the medicine. So if you go back and listen to it from the beginning, you'll see that there's an ebb and a flow, and it's meant to move with the medicine. It's meant to ebb and flow. And so logistically, when it comes to the medicine, sometimes you're just given one dose, sometimes it's two, sometimes it's three. It really depends on what your intention is. And it's done so that you're on a journey. It's like you're on a boat, on a nice, nicely waved, watered boat, as opposed to like a rocket to the moon and then back down again. So everything has a purpose. Everything has a reason why I do things. And so then the music pokes the medicine a little bit to make it to kind of dig in a little deeper, to get into the deeper elements of your trauma. Then you have beautiful playing music that allows for it to be released. So if you remember the music, it can be quite challenging. You're like, wow, that's really intense, but that's on purpose. That's on purpose because the experience of this is for healing, not just for a joyride. And so that's what's really important. And that's why guided ceremonies are more, just much more, in my opinion, better to do than recreational, because then you have someone there who's there to support you during a challenging time. Or if you're laughing hysterically, that we get to laugh together.
Yeah.
Um, right. So it's a relationship build. It can take anywhere from, let's say 4 to 6 hours for a journey. You are still going to feel lucid throughout the day. You'll be able to talk, you'll be able to walk, preferably assisted because I don't want anyone falling. You can drink water, you can take your earphones off, you can listen to the music out in the room. I mean, there's fluidity with it. It's not rigid. We do use things to activate the senses. So we have the sound, and I do have a bottle of the cacao, which is this beautiful oil from Peru, made from a shaman in Peru. It is like delicious. You just want to
The
eat drink.
most, if I honestly, it's 6 months later, if I put my hand exactly right, I can still smell it in my nostrils.
Yeah, it's
It's
great.
incredible.
Yeah. We do a lot of sage or Palo Santo or things like that. And I like to test them out before, because I had someone once, I was like, I didn't ask about the sage, and it just made her so sick. And I don't want your memory of an experience to be something that is like sage. My God, I never want to smell that again. But those things also bring about the medicine to activate the medicine within you as well. And sometimes, like I said, the smell that you have before the ceremony, before you ingest the medicine, might be really beautiful, but then when you take the medicine, it's like, I don't like that. Well, all that means is that it's just really working with the medicine and the traumas to help release. And it's just about sticking with it. And anytime that there's a challenge or something that happens within an experience, is to go to the breath. And so sometimes we try to run away from it. Oh my God, it's like, I can't do it. I'm like, yeah, you can. Go to the breath, go to the heart, feel the experience through the heart, because you've heard that, where you need to go through something in order to get to the other side. And it is a lot faster and a lot easier just to go to your breath and allow that moment to vanish, basically, because we're used to repressing and suppressing emotions. They have to come up.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean it's going to be, scary as hell. It just means it can be difficult than what you're normally used to.
Yeah,
Um,
I love that. I think I want to, you hit a point that I just want to hammer. I think people are fearful. Like
yeah,
it's not that they're not called to medicine. I was not called to mushrooms in any way. I was so curious about what I had witnessed of people that I trusted and how
mhm,
much they had literally changed. Like their northern star had changed. So to me, that was like that's what I wanted. I was like, I need to be shaken to my core. Something is up, not a line here.
mhm,
And for me, it felt dramatic or like enormous, right?
yeah,
So I want you just to discuss that fear element and why people you get shaken to the core of it. But I mean, for me, I went in saying, "Who am I?" That was my intention. What I wasn't expecting and what happened was that I had this huge post-traumatic stress disorder from my son nearly dying in front of me, which
mm,
was haunting me. And what I
yeah,
didn't expect to happen was for that to be cured.
yeah,
So the PTSD was is such a nice byproduct, but I didn't realize how much it was haunting me. And the fact that it's just a thought that comes in and a thought goes out and there's nothing.
yeah,
Um, and then I also came to this fruition of like, who am I? In the same ceremony, there's not a, the amount of money that I've paid in therapies to do other therapies, psychiatric or talk or whatever, which are all have a place in therapy. Don't get me wrong, but nothing else can I single-handedly say did that but with you. But I was so scared. Talk about the fear. I was so fearful. Why are people so scared? Is it that people have a bad like because shrooms is considered to be like a 1960s hallucinogenic party drug? Like what is the apprehension? What is the fear? Can you discuss that?
yeah, absolutely. So there's a couple elements here. The shit that you read on Google, right? Or, my friend's friend had a really bad trip, and then you didn't realize that, well, the person was doing, cocaine and alcohol and in the middle of nowhere at a party that, and then they got lost in the streets. So, it's about taking it out of context. Um, we don't want to give up control. That's the number one thing I hear most when I speak to people is, yeah, but I'm too afraid to give up control, because what if I see something that I don't want to see? And I'm like, well, what makes you think that you're going to see something that you don't want to see? Well, it's probably because of all the shit that they've repressed for years, of all the things that they're worried about, feeling. And I think that that's probably the most important element of the fear, I would say, is people don't want to feel anything other than happiness or joy, but they don't feel happiness and joy to their fullest extent in their day-to-day life. They feel sadness and grief and anger and frustration and overwhelm, and they don't want to. It's almost like uh what's the word? Not hypocritical. contradictory, where you're feeling those in your day-to-day life. You're afraid to take medicine because you're afraid to feel those. But what you don't realize, because you've never experienced that, is that you're actually going to get rid of those feelings. And in order to get rid of those feelings, we think that we have to go to the deep, darkest, part of our soul, and you don't. So you're talking about your PTSD. I mean, I'm sure that there were challenging moments within your ceremony, but you were laughing considerably for forever. And then you'd stop, and then you'd go inward, and then you'd laugh again. And so here you are doing the opposite of what you probably thought was going to happen in order to heal your PTSD.
It was
So
it
it's,
was incredible. I mean, I had to go through it, right? I saw hardness,
yeah.
but it wasn't the defining characteristic. It happened, but
Mhm.
then it was over. And I also, I should say, saw the happiest memories of my adult life. Like, I
Yeah.
thought maybe I would see things from my childhood, but it was all current,
Mhm.
beautiful, top 10 memories. If I like had Instagram in my brain and I was to open a
Yeah.
file of like the top 10 things that has happened in the last 10 years, that
Yeah.
is what I saw.
Yeah.
And that to me was really shedding light on like bringing more of that into my life. Those
Mhm.
amazing memories, creating those moments.
Yeah. Well, it's also about trust. We need to trust that we have an inner healer. We need to know that. We need to trust that our inner healer is going to give us what we can handle. And there's too many horror stories out there, too many movies out there, too many things of trauma. We live in a very fear-based world. And it's not surprising that people come and the first question or thought or whatever is, I'm afraid. Um, but what if you can come in with a place of just completely trusting that you're going to get exactly what you need to get rid of the junk that's inside of you? When I did ayahuasca, I had no idea what to expect. And that first ceremony, there were four, that first night was the scariest of my life because I would not let go of resistance. I was hanging on going, no, 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 you can't. I'm not going to go see that. And when you're in resistance, that's in anything in your life, that we just make it more difficult. So when I finally released and let go, it was over in like 12 seconds. I was like, oh my God, like here I am, scared out of my mind because I'm afraid of the fear. But when all I need to do is just kind of face it and go, okay, it's ready to go. And then it vanishes. So that's really the most important thing, is to know that someone is there to support you every step of the way, as opposed to just doing it in your basement by yourself or in the forest or something like that.
Right.
I really recommend that.
And in this case, for you, in terms of the medicines, let's talk a little bit about Costa Rica because it's coming up really soon. And I'm so honored to be attending and bringing some members of our community. Can you just speak a little bit about the retreat?
Yeah, absolutely. So I curated this retreat specifically for what I was looking for in a retreat. I've been to a bunch of retreats. They've all been really amazing. Even the ones that I didn't think were all that great. You always benefit from something. And I wanted to really work with people at using indigenous methods, having indigenous people at the retreat. Costa Rica is a really beautiful, very high vibing, energetic space. I'm very open to medicine, very open to these experiences. And so I purposely chose the peace retreat because it's in the jungle. It is a little bit off the beaten path. It's very peaceful. And I wanted people, the very first thing was to come and just connect to nature, because it's not all about the ceremony. It's about you connecting to yourself, to nature, to the universe, to the people that are there. That's why it's an application process, to make sure that we can curate a like-minded group who are ready to do this work. The food is phenomenal. It's vegetarian, vegan, healthy. The water's beautiful. And so it's not, and I'm going to be honest, I purposely didn't choose like this 5-star resort so that it was all about the resort. I wanted it to be about the feeling of the jungle and connecting with nature. It's a very beautiful resort. But so that was step number one. The ceremonies that we're doing, it is a psilocybin ceremony. It is a day-long experience. We are going to do fire pit night the first night before the ceremony, in order to have an integration circle, or sorry, a preparation circle, get people comfortable with each other because we're going to journey together. Fire, grandfather fire is a very beautiful element of being able to release things that we don't want. We're doing a jungle walk as well. We're doing going to spend some time in the water. So it's really about earth and water and fire, to be able to do some healing with the natural elements. And for some people who are listening to this, they might go, that sounds a little weird, but when you come, it's like the thing you're gonna go, wow, this was just like perfectly curated. We have a sweat lodge. So a sweat lodge, Temescal, is very much an indigenous an experience. It is, we're making the sweat lodge together, like the framework is there, but we're helping Alejandro, who is the indigenous Costa Rican who does the sweat lodge ceremonies. And we're going to learn a lot about some ancestral stuff, our spiritual beings. There's a lot of healing inside of a sweat lodge that can't be done anywhere else. And yes, it's hot and it's beautiful, and it's going to be a deeply profound experience. We have cacao ceremony, which is chocolate, ceremonial grade chocolate. And cacao, purest form of chocolate, and it's not just the dark chocolate that you buy at, Loblaws or something. It has a lot of antioxidant properties, but it's very heart opening and very healing. And so when we do this ceremony, it's a gentler way, and we're doing it after psilocybin in the sweat lodge, to just ground us, to get us into a place of groundedness and heart centeredness. And then we end it with a sound healing ceremony where it's bowls and gongs, and we get to just lie there, and the music, there's something about music when it's reverberated on our, in our chest area or in our solar plex area, aligns in the chakras. There's a lot of deeper inner healing that takes place. So they're not all, the ceremonies are not happening all the same day. It's throughout the week. And
Yeah.
then we end with another fire pit night, which is the integration closing circle. And the fire pit night is really about grandfather fire and really coming together for some closure for the week. And most importantly, we're going to talk about how are we going to integrate what we learn in our day-to-day life, and how do we do what you did, which was continually expand on the experience, so our life grows, our life expands out into our families, instead of shrinking back down. So that is it's the process in a nutshell.
I love that. Thank you for sharing the itinerary. I know that it's like an honor to do this with you, because what I understand is that the last time you did a retreat was before COVID. So this is sort of your first comeback out. And I know you will be doing more retreats in your career. So this is you
Yeah.
bringing together all of your genius, all of your love to really curate, as you said, this almost like epic ideological experience that really embodies what you're trying to achieve with your business and with your values. Um, if you just go to Odette's website, which is spiritualalliance.ca, and you just read the freaking testimonies of just one after another of people who are just couldn't stop singing your praises, and how authentic you are with explaining why you've come to this work, and sort of the life before and life after,
Mhm.
and so much of the work that you've done and the services you provide, which is so incredible. But maybe, Odette, can you give us a little bit more? Where can somebody find you if they want to contact you, and what are some of the services you provide?
Yeah, absolutely. So my website's the best place to go to really just check out, see, if I resonate with you at the spiritualalliance.ca. And in it, I share my story. I have information about my private work that I do, private ceremonies. I do, 1-day group ceremonies. And then of course, this retreat in Costa Rica. It is, the first step for the retreat is an application process. And that's really important because I need to know you ahead of time. We jump on a video chat afterwards to see if this retreat is for you in this moment at the right time, because we want to make sure that you're ready. We want to make sure that the group is going to be ready. And I'm trying to curate a group of people that are ready to do the work in that week. And it's really important because not everybody is. So that's the first step. If someone wants to work with privately or wants to get more information, it's a similar process, just there's a really short application, or there's really a short form. I get to know you before we jump on a video call. I always do video calls first, because I want to get to know you. It's a relationship that we're cultivating here. I've done a lot in my life, and the most important thing is to work with people so that they feel safe, they feel security, they feel like they're taken care of. And that is the most important element. You can probably go anywhere and get any, type of ceremony done. This for me is creating a container that makes you feel as safe as possible dealing with whatever it is that you're experiencing. So yeah, just reach out to me that way. And my email is awaken@spiritualalliance.ca.
We'll put it all in the show notes. I really think
Yeah.
that's incredible. Odette, if people hear nothing else today, what is like the lasting message you want people to take away from this conversation?
Yeah. We all have trauma. Humans are complicated. We all have stuff. We all have ancestors. We all have lineage. We all have crap. We all have shit. And it's up to you to decide when you're going to do that healing, when you're going to get rid of that. And we're here on a journey of life to really come back to ourselves, to really, as you put it, who is Alana? Who is Odette? Who am I? That's our truest reason of why we're on this path of life, is to find out who we truly are so that we can come home to ourselves. We can come home to our heart, our soul. And a lot of people in this world wait until they're on their deathbed. And so I encourage you to not wait until that moment, or not wait until you're sick, or not wait until something has manifested inside of you that that it becomes more challenging. Take a look at where you are in your life right now and be really honest. Are you where you want to be? Are you as happy as you think you can be? Are you in the relationship you want, or in the business that you want? And get really honest. That self-discovery piece is the number one most important thing, is be honest with, as you say, who am I in this moment? And if it's not an 8 out of 10, hell yeah, I'm rocking it right now, then let's talk. Because anything less than that is just not good enough.
Hell yeah.
Mhm.
It's a hell yeah for me, with Odette for sure. And guys, if you've been a fan or a follower, if you're a first time listener, I am as real and as authentic as it gets. And I was not a hell yeah. I was a hot mess, and grasping at every shiny object that came my way to try to make myself feel better.
Yeah,
You can go drink a mojito on a beach in Mexico, or you can do
yeah,
something that's really going to have a lasting effect. Um, and it's so incredible for me to have the privilege to bring Odette to you. This is obviously podcast is going to live in perpetuity. Odette has many more years in her to be practicing and doing this work. But frankly, psilocybin and plant medicine is really taking main stage, and for a reason. If you're hearing about this now for the first time, you're not late for dinner. You're right on time. And I know for myself, I've had some psychiatrists who are very, very predominant in Canada, many of which who are retiring and on their way out have told me that they cannot wait to see what psilocybin is going to do for mental health.
yeah,
Um, Not to mention that, like, if you just want to experience a new level of consciousness that has nothing to do with anything but just feeling incredible and seeing something that perhaps, or experiencing something that perhaps intrigues you, this is the most intriguing, special thing that I can encourage you. And I've had lots of experts, of which many who I have used their services and think they're incredible, many of which have deeply impacted me. But I cannot say enough flowers for this woman.
yeah,
I cannot send her enough roses on this podcast, because if it's not now, it may be another time, but there's always an opportunity for us to um, get closer to ourselves, a better version of ourselves. And nothing can do it this quickly for this price, with this much of a lasting effect than what I've experienced. So please go give Odette a follow on her Instagram, same name, also her podcast, her website. And we cannot wait to share our story. And I cannot wait to
yeah.
share our journey in Costa Rica and beyond. So thank you, Odette, for your time today. And thank you to our listeners.
Thanks. Ciao.
Ciao.